And if he has, the number must be astronomical. My life is a joke and you keep reading, just past the comic.
Oh, yo, I didn't know Clayton was like that. I didn't know he was like that. Okay, here's one of the few spoken word OGs on YouTube that I have not reacted to, that being Clayton Jennings. All right, I've seen a couple of his poems here and there over the years. He was definitely a pioneer of spoken word on the platform. Long before I had ever touched YouTube, long before I ever dropped a poem. Definitely check my poems out, obviously, but yeah, Clayton, he seems to be something else. So I have not seen this one before. This is one of his biggest. It's called Dear Anxiety. Let's not waste any time. Let's go. And of course, I'll give my commentary as usual.
Welcome, everyone. Every time you walk through these doors, you're taking steps to find yourself. Remember, this is a safe place. There's no judgment. You are accepted right where you're at, and wherever that leads, to find your own peace and happiness. Feel free.
I've never heard of an anxiety support group. I've heard of Alcoholics Anonymous, and then also, grieving support groups, those who've lost their loved ones or their loved ones are in critical condition, things like that. But this is new for me. Okay.
And wherever that leads, to find your own peace and happiness. Feel free to express yourself, to release your anxiety. I want you to be able to walk out with inner strength to finally be free. Clayton, it's great to have you back. I know you don't like to share, but why don't you start us off tonight? We want to hear what you have to say.
I wake up, puddle of sweat. I have nightmares and I get back into bed. It's like these voices just keep playing on repeat in the back of my head, and I can't get them to leave me alone. 30 years old, but still hates being alone when I'm home, because that's when the voices get the loudest. Opening up like this is a moment far from my proudest, but these demons keep pressing me. I swear they're the foulest, but I've grown comfortable with their presence. My conscience is calloused. My dreams are their playground, my thoughts are their palace. I try to evict them, they return with more. Anxiety isn't an item you can return at the store. I was 10 the first time I had a panic attack. Like a punch to the stomach, there's no planning for that.
Yo, okay, I did not see this coming. I did not know what to expect, but this is interesting. He's given his personal testimony with anxiety, but in the form of spoken word to members of the focus group. I'm just pretty much reiterating what we're seeing here, right? But a couple things I want to note. The first thing is that this poem happened to come out during the mental health renaissance on YouTube between 2014 and 2018. And you'll notice during that renaissance, a lot of spoken word poems happen to be within that same vein, within that topic. And this is no different. This came out around 2018, I believe. Now, with that being said, a few things I want to note is the fact that the rhyme is constant, but not super predictable. In other words, maybe if he has 4 lines within a stanza, maybe the first, second, third, and fourth line will all rhyme. Maybe it's just the second and fourth. Sometimes it's the first and third that'll rhyme, and then the second and fourth that'll rhyme. I notice is not the most consistent, which I like. When it's unpredictable like this, that tends to lead to more entertaining listens for the audience,
And I didn't tell anyone because I was too scared about what they'd say. And I know deep down there was nothing they could do to take it away. It was my fight to fight and my battle to face. I remember that house I grew up in and how those demons would rattle that place. I'd lay awake at night just staring at the ceiling. I've spent my whole life trying to run from that feeling of being lonely, that feeling of being lost, that feeling of being sick when the lights turn off, that feeling of being depressed, that feeling of being anxious, that feeling of screaming to God, begging him to take this, only to get silence in return.
Okay. Someone I know can certainly relate to this. I almost said who it was, but I don't know if they want me to be vocal about their struggles with anxiety. They've never really publicly said anything like that online, so I'll just keep their name private. But they can definitely relate to crying out to God for, healing of their anxiety and them not seeing results and them being very upset about that. Struggling with anxiety from a young age, but not telling anybody, not even telling me, and I was very close to that person, This is their story verbatim. Is kind of crazy. So I'm definitely going to send it their way.
That feeling of screaming to God, begging him to take this, only to get silence in return. I'd lay in that bed crying and I'd toss and I'd turn. And I turn and I toss to this day. The doctors gave me medication, the pastor said pray. I tried both and this anxiety still hasn't gone away. So forgive me if I fantasize about being gone today. I'm an actor who got really good at being on today. But when I turn off, I go right back into the shadows. I'm in the deep end now, but I started in the shallows. And I might just drown myself in these waves. Suburban hell, these homes are all graves. Everyone's coping with something but won't admit it. They're all too afraid. And these kids are glued to watching me. What do I say? If I'm honest with them, maybe they won't think highly of me. Everything they want me to be is what I'm dying to be. But everything I really am is what I'm not trying to be. I want them to know that they're not alone in their struggles. I wake up in tears and fall back asleep in those puddles. And I don't think I'll ever get out of this valley I'm in. Terrified that all along God has tallied my sins. And if he has, the number must be astronomical. My life is a joke and you keep reading, just past the comic.
Oh, yo, I didn't know Clayton was like that. I didn't know he was like that. Legit, bro? Nah, man. First off, this is very introspective, really personal, and I really appreciate him sharing his weaknesses, specifically because, you know, he's a church leader, like a ministry leader of sorts for the youth. At least he was at this point. I know that for certain. So him talking about how like he doesn't know if he could be a good example for the youth because of these struggles he has, and it often cause him to doubt his relationship with God because he ends up worrying and fearing about things he knows he shouldn't be worrying and fearing about. Yo, another thing, having a panic attack and not knowing what that is the freakiest thing ever. Okay, I've only had, I don't struggle with anxiety, but I've had 2 panic attacks before, which like shook me. I never had them again. It was due to like some crazy life circumstance that caught me off guard, and it was wild. I legit thought I was dying, bro. It's that bad. It's that bad. Thankfully, I've only had 2. And I pray I have no more, because that is one of the scariest things ever, yo. So like him having that at the age of 10 is just wild. Oh, and then one more thing. He mentioned like having thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore because of his anxiety. And that's what a lot of folks don't understand. They think it's just depression that makes you that way. Nah, bro. Like I said, I can't relate to this for the most part, but like there's some clients I've had, because I work in mental health, okay? I've had some clients whose anxiety is so bad, when they say, yo, sometimes I don't want to live anymore because of it, I believe them, bro. I believe them. It's not just being depressed that makes you that way. Sometimes your anxiety can trigger a depression so severe you want to just, you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, that might not have been an original diagnosis you had, but like the anxiety, if it's not treated well enough, you're not coping with it well enough, or it just gets too severe, yo, man, that can really make you want to just exit. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, he's not kidding when he says that. He's not saying it to sound dramatic or to get clicks and views. Like, real talk, bro. Anxiety can do that to you.
Everyone's coping with something but won't admit it. They're all too afraid. And these kids are glued to watching me. What do I say? If I'm honest with them, maybe they won't think highly of me. Everything they want me to be is what I'm dying to be. But everything I really am is what I'm not trying to be. I want them to know that they're not alone in their struggles. I wake up in tears and fall back asleep in those puddles. And I don't think I'll ever get out of this valley I'm in. Terrified that all along God has tallied my sins. And if he has, the number must be astronomical. My life is a joke and you keep reading, just past the comic, because everything you think that I am is far from the truth. I wish I could open up to you and just let loose, but my vocal cords get tight when the devil pulls on this noose, and then I'm back to keeping everything bottled up inside. But he's not gonna keep me from pulling the throttle back this time. He's not gonna keep me trapped like this. I can't get out of bed, I was never made to act like this. I'm packing up my bags and he can't stop me from running fast like this. I'm not gonna be a slave to these voices of anxiety. I'm shoving the devil back for every time that he lied to me. And I'm taking a belt to these demons who whisper despair in my ear. And I'm ignoring every naysayer who stands and stares when I'm near. I'm moving forward out of this slump. I took my bruises, I took my lumps. I fell down, but I got right back up. So give me a torch and let's light that up. I'm setting fire to the devil and I'm dousing these demons in gasoline. Look at you now you're not laughing at me.
Yo, okay, the lighting change, I knew something was up when it was getting darker, but as it was getting dark, he was getting more hopeful, he was getting more confident, he had that like fire in him. So that was a weird dichotomy. Normally you'd expect it to get brighter when that happens, right? Having the environment reflect the words that are being said in the poem. That's what you often see in a lot of poetry videos. I mean, music videos even. The lighting reflecting the tone, right? But as it's getting more hopeful, it was getting dark, and I was wondering why that's the case. And then suddenly when we get more clarity on his environment, because the lighting sort of starts to come back, there's no one in the seats no more. Did you notice that? They vanished. It's just him, right? Which is very telling, because he said he struggles to open up. But as he's opening up to these people, it's almost like they're not even there no more.
Me, now who's the one who's being tortured and punked? Now who's the one closing every door that I want? Now who's the one watching the other burn to the ground? Don't look away from me, you better turn back around. I'm not done talking to you now. I'm watching your moves. I'm on your back and I'm stalking you too. And when you try to ruin some other kid's life, I'll be stopping you too.
Yeah, sometimes you really gotta talk to the enemy. You gotta talk to the enemy. You gotta start telling him who's boss. Right? Like, you're not going to control my life anymore. You are not. You know what I'm saying? Like, some folks, you really just got to stop being victims. It's about time you take on your position of being a victor, not a victim. You feel me? You're the head and not the tail. You're above and not beneath. All right? No more taking defeat. Let's go.
You took 30 years of my life and I can't get that back. You told me to end my life and I nearly got killed for that. You took me down but I bounced right back. I was lost then and I got found like that. And everything you told me I wasn't, someone new told me I was. And everything you hated in me, someone new told me he loves. And when you tried to kill me with depression and anxiety, he reached in and placed hope deep inside of me. So I'm done listening to you and letting you control me. I'm announcing it now that the devil can't hold me. I'm walking away from the old me and I'm demanding a refund on every lie that you sold me. You knew I'd find a way out sooner or later, and I found my escape in the form of a savior.
Yo, he rocked me so hard my camera fell over. Hold on. Yeah, on the knees. Yeah, all praise to the Most High. Hold on. He done rocked this.
Clayton. Clayton. We're here to help. Are you sure you don't want to share?
He didn't even share. That was all in his head.
I'm good.
Bro. So close. Anxiety supportless group, yo. Okay. That was intense. Clayton, my man. Yeah, that was fire. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm very surprised up until this point that I've never gotten a recommendation from you all, the viewers, about checking out his poetry, because I've done a lot of reactions to mental health poems in the past, but never have I ever gotten a recommendation for this man right here. Really weird. With that being said, I obviously enjoyed this. I think his metaphors were really grand. He was talking about how, like, there's a bunch of graves around him because people are dying inside. That was very telling. I know the camera's a bit like different than it was before, but just bear with me. I think the introspection he gave was extremely detailed and very vulnerable, and I love seeing that because that leads to a lot of relatability. Content like that tends to go viral because people are like, oh, I know what that feels like, you know? And a lot of folks like to see themselves in the art you're creating. Keep that in mind. So you young and aspiring artists, keep in mind people like to see themselves in your creation, okay? Even if they don't have the exact same background as you, a lot of us share very similar experiences, all right? Even me, who doesn't have anxiety, I've had 2 panic attacks in my life that were both related to the same thing. Really wild. If I stayed around that trigger long enough, it might have actually developed full-blown anxiety. Who knows? But thank God for clarity. Anyway, yeah. Even I was able to relate to this to a degree. Meanwhile, I don't have the diagnosis. So yeah, let me know if you can relate as well. Let me know your thoughts on the poem in general. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why and why not? All right. With that being said, it's your boy Kendryk Youngblood, and I'm out. Deuces.